my own family tradition, and that is that we never put out baby Jesus until Christmas Eve. The problem was I needed some place to hide him, and so I hid him. And Christmas Eve, I forgot where I hid him. And so we had this wonderful moment where the nativity was set up on the table, and I realized I was going to take the children and we were going to put baby Jesus, and I looked around at the praise band and I started to say, "Where is he? Where did I put him?" And I just panicked. I mean, how can you have Christmas without baby Jesus? And so I petition all of heaven and saying, "God, you know where hidden things are. You know where baby Jesus is." Turned and baby Jesus. Well, today we are celebrating that we are able to be expectant. Mary was she was expectant in heart. I mean, think about this. A 14-year-old humble and favored by God for such a task. Not an easy task. Hardships included. There's some things that Mary did know, and there's some things she didn't know. She knew that she couldn't have a son on her own. So she knew that God had to be involved. But she didn't know that Jesus was going to be controversial, that he was going to be hated by some. She didn't know his lifestyle was going to be so hard on both him and her heart. And she definitely didn't know at that time that he was going to die on the cross. I would imagine as we hear the gospel writers saying that Mary treasured all these things in her heart. She tucked them away bits by bits by bits. These stories she just kept in her heart. Mary had a choice, and so do we. Mary had a choice to say, "No way. No way." She had a choice to be despondent and discouraged. I'm sure you and I would be walking the journey that Mary walked. And yet that was not her response. Did she have bad days? Absolutely. But her response was not "no way." It was, "Let it be God's way." And so I asked those of you that were involved in the hayride, I asked you, would you have an expectant heart? Would you look for the unexpected? And then would you share the story of where you found Jesus perhaps hiding in an unexpected place? And so I'm going to ask that you might share the stories of where you saw Jesus, very unexpected. And Dave, I'm going to ask if you'll just turn on the handheld mic, and so if someone Well, just kind of put your hand up. Dave will get to you. I know you have stories. You told me some of these stories. Where's Travis? I'm going to start calling on you if you don't do it yourself.
I guess it's on now. So I actually have two different stories. So I was a seeker on the wagon, and it was the second to last wagon for the night, and we got to the manger scene, and a little 4-year-old girl that was sitting across from me, she said, tapped her mommy on the shoulder and goes, Mommy, look, it's baby Jesus. And the mommy goes, yeah, that's baby Jesus. And she goes, but Mommy, baby Jesus is my best friend. So I thought that one was pretty cool. And the last one, and Sue Walsh can attest to this, the last wagon that we were on last night, as we were coming down the road, looking back up at the manger, we both saw a shooting star going right over top of the manger. So I just thought that was pretty cool. So.
Unexpected and a blessing. Thank you, Travis. So now while you're remembering, because it wasn't that long ago, so I want to hear some more stories. As we were preparing and going out to the sets, Danielle and I ran into John Gleim, and John Gleim is an amazingly special man in our community who makes the contact for the tractors, because the last 2 years we've had to increase and to find tractors that we could turn off. John's tractors can't be turned off at every set. It ruins the starter in the tractor. And so John rolled down his window and he said, well, we had a little bit of a problem. And of course, when John Gleim says we have a problem, it's a problem. And so I know Danielle just kind of took a breath and stopped breathing. And he said, when I went to the John Deere tractor, things are not going to work. In fact, he said, it looked like we were not going to get the tractors. Now, how do you have a hayride to Bethlehem without tractors? And so we waited because we knew there was a better ending to this story. And he said, but I'll tell you what, the owner of John Deere pulled a rabbit out of his hat. And we smiled, and I said, John, we don't believe in rabbits. And so everything worked out. It was a hardship for the John Deere dealership, but they did what they did, and they loaded 4 tractors, and they got him here. And I just looked at Danielle, and I said, what we don't know in the ways that God provides for us, that we just assume those wagons are going to be here, the tractors are going to be here, everything is just going to work out well. Yeah. And so Thursday night, the wagon pulled up to take the cast out so we could practice. And Mike Sunday had brought his wagon and his tractor. And he said, Danielle, you might want to look out the window. He said, you see, last year, he said, my little wagon was starting to sway, and he said, I was getting a little bit nervous. So he said, I said to my father, who's Jack Sunday, he said, Dad, he said, I'm getting a little bit nervous about this wagon going out on Route 11. He said, it's just not as stable as I'd like it to be. That's all he said. And unbeknownst to Mike and unbeknownst to us, Jack Sunday worked this past year and got a hold of a wonderful Amish family and said, I need you to build me a wagon. And so that wagon pulled up, and it was a brand new wagon with stairs of its own and seats. Can I say seats? Not of hay or straw, but seats. We had people board that wagon, and they wondered if we had electric. And I told them, because that was my wagon, last night as I got to be narrator, because poor Becky got sick, and so I went out all night and I was narrator, and I honestly believe it did have heat because I was warm the whole time out there. I believe that God just envelops us in such warmth when we expect the unexpected. So might you have another story? Oh, come on. Sandra, thank you.
comment card as this woman asked her. She said, I just have a question for you. And she said, where do you find all these people to help you? And she's like, they're all from the church.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you, if you were in any way helping with a hayride, that means you prayed, you made cookies, you helped set design, you were one of the cast, you were hospitality, you loaded wagons, would you stand? You brought animals. Look around. Look around. This is you, church, being church. Being church. I went to bed last night, and I put my head on the pillow, and I said, God, I thank you so much for letting me be at Middlesex and letting me be a pastor of a church who truly knows how to be church. There was a woman who came up to me, Travis, came over and said, could you come up to this lady? She wants to talk to you. And she said to me, she said, I just can't imagine how all this happens. But can I tell you, I want to thank you, because she said, your church gave us Jesus. Your church tells us about Jesus. So thank you. You can be seated. We could have amused and entertained, but the script that we updated and just rewrote with all of the passion in our heart was a non-apologetic story of how much Jesus loves us and the purpose that he has for each one of us. And so I thank you from the bottom of my heart. But I'm going to ask right now that Danielle would come. Do we have another one? Oh, thank you. Jess? Hi, Jess. No, go. I want to hear it.
I was just going to share. I was also on the wagon, just two different places. I had never ridden the wagon before, so just seeing all of the congregation and all their gifts being perfectly placed, which is a lot of Danielle's talent and organization, but also Angie reminded me last night, she's like, well, that's just how God works. He puts everyone in the perfect place. The other story was one of our last wagons. When Ben had started singing at his scene, there was he might have been 3 or 4-year-old boy, and he couldn't see Ben. He just heard his deep voice start, and he goes, is that God?
Please don't tell Ben.
I'm a loud talker, so I don't think I need a microphone unless you want to bring one. For years, I've been telling my mom's club about the hayride and how awesome it is. And I have a friend who for years has been out of town every single time that we've done the hayride, and I saw her here yesterday. She said my plans changed, and I'm so excited to finally get to experience this thing that you've always been talking about. And also, Ellis too, so you never really know how much she gets when we're at church and things. And at the end of every scene, she said, bye God, bye Jesus.
Awesome. Through the hearts and the eyes of the children. And one last story that one of you shared with me. There was a young person, senior in high school, who has gotten herself in such trouble, so broken, kicked out of school. She's been prayed over, just prayed over that she would find hope and find a greater purpose. And the unexpected happened. She came Friday night, and she boarded the wagon, and she heard that there is hope for her life and that she has purpose. If this hayride to Bethlehem changed one person's life, oh, I'd do it again next weekend. I do it every single day, and so would you, because that's why we're doing this. That's why God has called us to be church. So Danielle, if you'll make your way forward, Danielle has some announcements. And Jonathan, she is so tired. Could you come up and stand with her? Come on, big guy. So this preparation started long ago. I'm trying to think when we started looking. I think it was August or July that we started working on the whole script, and then met. And then the work just started really kind of piling up, and sets had to be designed. Bob Egoff and his team built brand new sets because we had changed things, and just so many other talents were involved. The creation scene, and we had to do the shadow play, and someone asked us if we pulled that off of YouTube, and we said, we are YouTube. That was ours. That was our people. And so just so many creative elements just needed. And Danielle at one point, as I was so passionate about the creation scene, and she said, Jan, do we really have to do it? Why don't we wait till next year? Because it was just so much. It was so much to figure out. And I said, well, Danielle, if you'd like to wait, but I really want the creation scene. And Danielle couldn't say no. And so it really came together. It was a wonderful way in which we started it. But I need to talk about not only all the time and the effort that Danielle put in, but the sweet spirit in which she does it. It is such a joy to get a call from Danielle, is it not? She makes working and being out in the cold so much fun. It's amazing. Her sweet spirit just pervades all of us, so that when we get together, people actually asked us, you have fun doing this, don't you? And we had to answer, yes, we do. Your smiles to one another, your hospitality out, stems from the leadership that comes to set that tone. Now, I have to tell you about somebody else. Every time there was a project to do, and we were like, how are we going to do that? Danielle would say this, Jonathan will do it. And so literally, Jonathan took off Thursday and Friday of this week, and he was by her side the whole time. And I know that because I was shadowing her the whole time. Jonathan never left her side, and Danielle would say, I need this. I'll go get it, he would say. And not once did I hear, oh my goodness, you're driving me nuts. Because she might have been driving him nuts. But Jonathan's incredible spirit and sweet sense of humor just kept Danielle calm as we worked out there and worked at all these obstacles. And Jonathan figured it out, and away we went, and everything was in place. And so not only did I get to see the leadership of Danielle, and I got to see the strength and the support, but I saw a marriage that I would love to be a mouse in their house, because the sense of humor in that house is just rich. The love and the commitment in that house just overwhelms my soul. So, we just wanted to say a little thank you. And it is tiny. It is tiny. But it's a way in which we'd like you to perhaps go rest. Just rest. And we want to thank you both. We want to thank all of the guys that set up the sets, the cast, everyone. But as Danielle will tell you with a smile on her face, our work is not done.